Hey everybody, as always, I hope you're doing well out there. So the first thing you're going to need in order to do a time-lapse video from your trail camera is obviously you're going to need a trail camera. Now don't get me wrong, you can do a time-lapse video from nicer cameras like an SLR or something like that. But I'm going to show you in this video how to do them with your trail cameras, mainly because I'm trying to do this as cost effective as possible. You can get trail cameras anywhere from $20 and up. And they actually do pretty good as far as making time-lapse videos. There's various trail cameras on the market. I've used several of them. They all work very well. This is the one that I like. This is by a company called My Animal Command. You don't have to use this one, but the reason I like this one is they send you a solar panel with their trail camera. And depending on how long you're looking to have your camera out there taking images for your time lapse, it's nice to have a solar panel versus having to pay for batteries or wonder, oh, are my batteries dead? Is it still taking pictures? Stuff like that. You'll notice I have no batteries in my camera. All I have is it plugged into the solar panel. Let's go ahead and turn on the camera. I'm going to walk through some of the settings. Now again, I'm using this trail camera. If you've got a different model trail camera, it should have some of the same settings that we're going to see on this one. Might be a little bit different depending on how your camera operates. But I'm going to show you some of the things that I look for when you're doing your settings for your time lapse. So first and foremost, you're going to go into your menu and you're going to be looking for a setting that says time lapse. Most hunters don't care about this. They're putting the camera out to get motion detection, but for a time lapse, you're going to want to make sure that you've got time lapse on. On most cameras, when you turn this feature on, you're going to get some kind of message telling you that the motion detection will not work. The reason for that is when time lapse is on, it's just taking pictures at a certain period of time. It's not going to use motion detection. Let's see, there we go. So you'll see here, infrared sensing function will be turned off during this mode. That's pretty standard on most cameras. Now in here, you're going to want to set how often do you want the time-lapse images to be taken. Again, it's not going to be using motion, so if we set it like mine right now is set for every 30 minutes, that means throughout the day, every 30 minutes, whatever it's looking at, it's going to take a picture. You can set it for an hour, you can set it for 30 minutes. It's going to kind of vary depending on what it is you're wanting to do a time lapse of. So for example, if I wanted to put it on a flower that's blooming at nighttime, I would do maybe every 10 minutes because it's going to be out there for a shorter period of time. If I'm wanting to do a time lapse on something like a construction site being built or a garden growing or something that's going to be out there longer, then I would maybe do every 30 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that, because it's going to be out there for a longer period of time. The one thing I'll say is the more pictures you've got, the better your time lapse is going to be. If you've got too big of a gap between your images, your time lapse isn't going to come out very well. So go ahead and set your time lapse. The other thing I would recommend is on most cameras, you've got the option for a timestamp. Timestamp is basically the little info strip at the bottom that shows you when the picture was taken and the temperature and moon phase, stuff like that. For a time lapse, I would recommend cutting this off because when you merge all of the pictures together, if you see that info strip, it's just not going to look very good. So make sure you've got the info strip off. The other thing I should mention is a lot of cameras have what's called time switch. Time switch is basically how long is the camera operational and taking pictures. My recommendation is if you're going to have the camera out there during daytime and nighttime, let it take pictures throughout the nighttime as well. If you don't, you'll see, I'm going to attach an example video, but you'll see where at nighttime, if you don't do night images, it just gets kind of choppy. You've got day images and then it gets dark and then you go to day images. I think it's almost better when you've got a sense of daytime, nighttime, daytime, nighttime. And again, some of these time lapse videos, you just have to play with it a little bit till you figure out what setting's the best for that object that you're trying to capture. So those are the settings I would recommend on the trail camera. Make sure you've got it set to time lapse, make sure you've got your timestamp on, and then look at your time switch and make sure you've got an appropriate amount of time that the camera is operational. So at this point, all we're going to do is we're going to put our trail camera out, we're going to put it on our subject, and we're going to let the time lapse start taking pictures. The next step is going to be pulling the memory card off of the camera or plugging our camera into the computer so we can get to the images and go into Microsoft Photos and build our time-lapse video. That's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go ahead and load my memory card in. We'll go on my computer and we'll take a look at it. Okay, so now I'm on my computer and I'm ready to start building my time-lapse video. So there's two things you're going to need. First is you're going to need all the images that were off of your trail camera. And then the second thing you're going to need is the software that's going to let you build the time-lapse video. So first and foremost, let's go to the images off of our trail camera. Now, most people are going to get these by pulling the memory card out of your trail camera, putting it in a card reader on your computer, or you can plug your trail camera directly into your computer and pull your images. But either way, you need to know where that image folder is at, and you should end up with a folder just like this, where I've got a ton of images that were captured while my trail camera was out doing the time-lapse photos. Now, I'll say this, I've got 1,560 items in my time-lapse that I'm going to build. The more images you've got and the bigger the file size, so if you had a 20 megapixel camera or 16 megapixel camera, something like that, the more images, the bigger the file size, the longer this process is going to take. So as I start doing it, if it takes too much time, I might speed through certain sections of it, and then I'll let you know the approximate time it took. It's also going to vary depending on the processor and stuff like that you've got on your computer. So first and foremost, we need our pictures. We need to know where they're at. And then the second thing you're going to need is you're going to need a software called Photos. Now, Photos is a software that's delivered from Microsoft. You should automatically have it if you've got a Windows 10 operating system computer. If not, you should be able to search and download it for free out of the Windows App Store. Photos is the replacement for what used to be called Microsoft Movie Maker. That was available back on Windows 7, XP, the older operating systems. This is just a new version. So I've opened up Photos on my computer. It should look something like this when you go in. Up at the top here, you're going to want to click on Video Editor, and then we're going to do a new video project. Now it's going to come up and say, do you want to name your video? You don't have to, or if you want to, you can name it. This is really more so for people who have multiple video projects they're working on, just to keep them straight. But in our case, this is the only one we're doing. When we get in, there's two different sections. There's a top section here that says your video library is empty, and then there's a storyboard section. The first thing you're going to want to do is load all of your images up into this video clip section. So we're going to do that by clicking the add button from this PC, and then we're going to map to the folder that has all of those images. So I've got that already loaded. Once I'm in here, I'm going to do Control A to select all of the images, and I'm going to click Open. Now this is the part of the process that's going to take some time. It's currently adding 1,500 and something pictures to my photo editor so I can use them in building a video. Okay, so that took about 10 to 15 minutes on my computer. Again, depending on your computer and how many images you're loading, that process can take up to 30 minutes or even longer. But you'll know, as it says it's adding photos, you know it's doing it. When it gets done, it should look like this. Now you'll notice by default, all of the images are selected. You're going to want to leave it like that. In the event that you click on one of them or you unclick, you can always do Control A or you can re-click them. When you've got 1,500 images though, you got to remember Control A will always select all. Now that we've got them added to our photo library, all we're going to do is drag them all down to our storyboard. So your photo library is the images that are eligible for you to put into your storyboard. Your storyboard is actually what you're going to be producing. So you'll notice now that process was pretty quick. I've got them all added to my storyboard. But if I start playing, you'll notice there's a little indication down here by them. Each image is going to play for 3 seconds. So if I hit play right here, we've got a video and every picture shows for 3 seconds, but that doesn't make for a very good time lapse. That's more for somebody who's wanting to do a slideshow of images or something like that. So we're going to stop this. What we're going to do instead is we're going to go to the first image. We're going to do Control A to select all of them. Now this is going to take a few seconds because again it's selecting all 1,500. You'll notice that they've been selected, and we're going to click over here that says duration, and we're going to change that duration from 3 seconds to something more like 0.04 seconds. And then we're just going to press enter. And you'll notice at the bottom, it's going to change the duration for every picture in our storyboard now to 0.04 seconds. Again, you'll want to play with the timing just to see what works best for you. I find that to work pretty good for me. Now, if we click play, we should have a pretty decent time lapse. Now, I'm going to apologize to begin with. This isn't the best time lapse video. This is one I just put on my flower bed so I could watch my flower bed grow over the last 4 months.
But when I click play, we can see the time lapse pretty good. This is where I was saying it looks a little bit choppy because there's obviously more day images than there were night images. Basically, I had the camera operating during the day, and then at nighttime it would shut off. That's where I was saying I think it would have been better if you had some more night images mixed in there as well. It's pretty decent. It's not too bad. It's a little bit choppy, like it's having trouble with it. So again, you can go back here and you can adjust the duration to something else. Like, let me try 0.0, let's say 3 seconds. Yeah, so for this one, I think 0.03 looks a little bit better. Again, we're taking 1,500 and something pictures, and you're going to be putting them into a video that's going to come out to be about 50 seconds long. And that's what a time lapse is it's basically taking tons of images, only having them viewable for a second. It's kind of like the old school thing you used to do where you draw pictures in the corner of a notebook and then you flip through the pages and it makes it look like a video. You're not doing anything different with this process. Once you've got it the way it looks, where you think it looks okay, if you want to save it, you're just going to do finish video, and then you're going to export it as a video and save it to anywhere you want to on your machine. So I'm going to save mine to my desktop. It'll be saved as an MP4 file. And then once it's done exporting, you're just going to navigate to that location on your computer. You should have an MP4 file, just a regular video file. You can double click it and play it. And you've successfully created a time-lapse video from your trail camera images. I hope this video helps. At least it gives you something to play with. Again, Microsoft Photos is free. If you've already got a trail camera and you've never used the time-lapse feature, I think it's something to consider looking into. Hope the video helps. If you got questions, post them in the comments. Be happy to help you out. Thanks for watching.